crypto compliance and regulation updates.
I'm going to be moderating a panel today on a crypto compliance and regulation, as Olga mentioned, because we need to get to the point. I am an editorial director and chief strategy officer at Crypto.news, and please welcome the best ever panelist. Hi guys, please come on in. Woo! Woo! Yes! Hi. There are microphones. You can choose your... All right, let's get to it. You don't have, because I stole it. I'm sorry. So, I like the phrase that Olga used, to get to the point. And I know that crypto compliance and crypto regulation sometimes might sound a little bit stiff. But the truth is that it is very important. It is the essence of how we do business and how we can or cannot do business. That's the truth. So you really have to get down to it and understand what's going on. Again, I'm going to put a disclaimer. I'm a very, very critical journalist, so I do have a lot of questions. I'm going to put you guys on the spot. I'm going to follow up and stuff like that, and I'm excited to start the conversation. So we have 3 panelists, as you can see, all with great background. Please, let's introduce ourselves. Adrian, you can start.
Hi, everybody. Wow, that was loud.
Hello.
It's Adrian Zduńczyk, CMT. I'm a charter market technician. This is the only title in my home country, Poland, which sucks, because there should be many more professionals dealing with traditional markets and with cryptocurrency markets on an accredited manner, on a licensed manner, something that prevents the typical scams that the crypto industry is known for. Whenever I talk to institutions, whenever I speak and advise to the Minister of Finance in Poland, whenever I talk to the high net worth individuals, they always take a look at a crypto through the lens of the scam. So there is an immediate prejudice. So my mission as a licensed market technician, as a licensed investor, is to just undo a little bit of this prejudice, is to find this institutional bias with the means of numbers and facts. That's what I do for a living, except for losing money.
A quick follow-up. You said that's the only title. How would you call yourself if you didn't have any official
Wow, that is a
labels?
Good question.
We can get back to you later if that's a philosophical one. Thank you, Adrian. Joseph, please.
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm Joseph. Call me Joe or Joseph. I'm a former regulator. Sounds like AA. My name is Joseph. I'm a former regulator.
Hi, Joseph.
And so basically, I've been at the tech industry for basically all my career. Did my master's in IT law. I'm a lawyer by profession. Moved into telecoms immediately, then from telecoms to gaming, where I was a regulator for 6 years. And eventually, I got into fintech over the past 7 years. So I got into the crypto industry in 2015-16, which is quite early in the day. And I was lucky enough to get there at the right time. More later.
Thank you, Joseph, former regulator. Talal, hi.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Talal Tabbaa. I'm a current regulated entity.
Okay.
I'm the CEO of 2 regulated entities. The name is CoinMina. We're a local crypto broker that focuses on on-ramp and off-ramp. Prior to that, I used to build Ethereum decentralized applications, so very different from the centralized regulated business that I'm currently working on. But I guess I felt that in order for crypto to properly grow in the Middle East, you need to make sure that you have reliable ways of depositing and withdrawing your money, because that's kind of the Trojan horse to launching other on-chain products. And definitely the future will move towards a decentralized one. But today, people want to have username and password, not necessarily manage their own private keys. So that's why we've decided to go with that. And yeah, pleasure to be here.
Okay, hi Talal, current regulator. We have a very diverse group right here. So let's just dive right into it because we don't have a lot of time, unfortunately, but we could go on. My favorite question, actually, of our panel is more of a philosophical one, yet very practical. How do I put this without swearing? Why is it taking so long for any single country out there to actually sit down, look at crypto assets and crypto businesses and their expertise and experience, and come up with something with a very certain legal framework? So what is the problem? Why is it taking so long? Bitcoin has been around since 2008. Other cryptocurrencies joined, but so I don't want to swear because Ola will never hire me again. So why is it taking so long? Joseph, as a former regulator.
Okay, so there are probably three reasons. The easiest one, and probably why what most people would reply in, would be a regulator needs to understand the industry first, and usually a regulator coming from government departments or with a government background, they are not so used to dealing with innovation, and that puts them as a disadvantage to understand the technology. But I don't believe that that is the main reason. A very big reason, as a regulator, one of the problems you always have is the risk. So as a regulator, you have to make sure, and when I say, I know that legislation doesn't come from regulators, but usually regulators influence legislation because they're advisors to government throughout the process. And one of the main reasons is that everyone is afraid of making a mistake and then having to live with it, and that is, they are always afraid of that. But also, another important reason, mainly, probably not the main one as the second one, but a very important reason, is also the fact that there's a very fine line between regulation and over-regulation. If you over-regulate, you lose the market because everyone will go underground or offshore. So to get it right, it takes time. Unfortunately, sometimes when you take too much time, you might be getting it right for that moment in time, but you are completely late and you still get it wrong.
Okay, so let me sum up. The first reason is, let's call it bureaucracy, because I know the legal machines tend to move very slowly.
It's also knowledge, I would say.
Knowledge, okay, understand. Okay. The second one is risk or fear of being wrong. And the third one, which I think is pretty much close to the second one, the fear of being over-regulating something.
Finding the right balance.
Talal, is that something that you would agree with? Yeah.
Pulled out a quote from Ronald Reagan that I think is very exciting, very relevant to this. Okay. Basically, the way that governments view the economy is, if it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. If it stops moving, subsidize it. We're currently in the regulated phase. I'm personally a bigger fan of free markets. So I think that markets eventually regulate themselves, and any effort by the government to over-regulate will fail. People will end up going to other jurisdictions. For example, I know we're discussing VARA, Myka, and others. I think one of the biggest things in crypto is that it's a global industry, meaning if you off-ramp or on-ramp in Europe, but you're trading on a Seychelles-based exchange, then Seychelles laws would apply to you. So I personally think that the way that VARA has done it with a services-based approach is the best. Then again, I'm a bit biased, I'd say, because they're my regulator. But yeah, so the way that I think of it is governments will not get it right, and it's naive of us to think that they would, because technology and regulation will always lag. Like, just think of how much government suffered in regulating something like Uber, which is taxis. You're coming up with a new financial system, and you're expecting regulators to understand it. So the way that we deal with it is we looked at the different regulations. We'll comply with the ones that make sense and the ones that we believe are logical. And yeah, you pick your regulator based on the services that you want to provide, and each company will have its own set of desires, let's say.
So would you suggest a more proactive approach to what's going on?
Actually, I would want to differentiate between the need to be regulated and then no need to be regulated. There are many companies that I believe can work with a regulated partner and not have to be regulated themselves. I think the traditional financial industry did that quite well. For example, in order to custody client funds, you need to be, for example, a bank. And in order to be a bank, very big restrictions are there on capital adequacy, on other types of restrictions, whereas someone like an introducing broker wouldn't have as much of requirements. So do I think they need to be proactive? Not necessarily. I think the regulations should be as broad as possible, because properly defining them will end up like they won't be properly defined. That's my opinion.
And if I may follow up on
You
this,
may,
and
absolutely, yeah.
that allows for, so having broad regulations is good because it makes them future-proof as much as possible, of course. It's impossible to make everything totally future-proof or technology-neutral, these big words. But the broader you are, the more chance you have of being able to be flexible. The risk there, if you don't have a competent regulator, then having broad regulations can create other problems.
I'm going to ask the next question because we don't have a lot of time. So, Adrian, you're going to start first. Well, kind of following on what we just said, who is doing this right? We have discussed this before in our chat. You mentioned, obviously, the United Arab Emirates and the UK with Myka and other countries. So, Adrian, in your opinion, who's doing this right? Or close to right, or at least crawling into the right direction in terms of regulating a crypto space?
Right on. Great question, Catherine.
Thank you.
So since I'm from Europe, right, and the European Union has passed the bill on the markets in crypto assets, right, Myka, and this is already happening. This is in the implementation phase right now. I'd say that the European Union has a firm stake in that region, and it's okay because eventually, what regulations do, they take off the uncertainty. They take off the uncertainty of working with the unknown, right? And this is a risk management because eventually, when there is a large institution trying to play the cards of crypto, basically trying to deciding whether or not they should get engaged into crypto, they're gonna take a look basically at what the legal risks levels there are, because eventually if you make a transaction back in the day when you would make a transaction connected with a crypto entity, the banks may really withhold your money, right? And you cannot ever access that, and it's going to be immediately blacklisted, AMA violation, even though there might be no violation at all. It's just immediately flagged, and it's still happening. However, if we regulate the markets properly, if we regulate the businesses, the whole barrier of uncertainty between the crypto and non-crypto businesses, kind of like just the curtain falls down, right? This makes it easier to process any sort of like business transaction between those entities. And as a matter of fact, this is what develops the market itself. This is what promotes technological advancement. This is what promotes growth in the industry, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. And now we're getting to the more heated part of the same question. Let's just, because we don't have a lot of time. Crypto, Dubai license, Dubai crypto license, yes or no? Because I know we discussed that, and I have friends in the audience who are trying to get a license in Dubai for their crypto business, so this might be very helpful for them. Let's discuss, is it really official? Is it good on paper but not applicable in real life? Because we have Joseph, who's not that much excited about this. I don't want to put words in your mouth. So Dubai, let's start with, is Dubai and United Arab Emirates are doing this right in terms of crypto regulation? Joseph, let's start.
Look, I think getting it right and getting it right at the right time is also important.
Okay.
So, for example, Malta had a framework that was identical to Myka 5 years ago. Everyone says it was a failure. Today, if you look at Myka, it's basically 80% the same to the Maltese framework. So they did get it right. So I believe, for example, ADGM was quite successful if you compare it to VARA. But now there's this whole buzz around VARA. To be honest, I still haven't obtained any license for clients here under VARA. So I think Talal will give us more information about that. Of course, he has to be politically correct because he's regulated by them. So have
Yes,
to consider that.
just a quick note. Alex, here's a person who got the license. The variable. Alex, could you please listen to this? So how did you do this? That's the first question. How did you get the license? Was it a,
so
Okay.
I don't need to be politically correct. I will just stick to facts.
Okay.
What's the most successful crypto business out of ADGM or Myka? Because for me, I'm a business guy. I don't care if the regulations are good if they don't make me money. So what successful business came out of ADGM or Myka? I can't name them. Whereas Vara, you have Binance being regulated there, you have CoinMina regulated there, you have a full list of entities that are currently operational with client money accounts. So will I be biased to Vara? Obviously, because they're my regulator, but I wouldn't have said that if you can't go today and start depositing dirhams in a client money account that's approved by the Central Bank of the UAE. So again, it depends what you want to do. At CoinMina, we're a super simple service. We're a broker. We don't even have an order book. Someone deposits dirham, we give them crypto, and we source that crypto from, so from a regulatory standpoint, I would say that we went with the lightest possible license, because that's the service that we're currently providing. We have a bigger license in Bahrain. I actually think that the Central Bank of Bahrain has the best regulations in the region, even though...
How so? Are they...
Because, okay, so again, it depends what you want to do. If you're operating a crypto exchange or a broker, the most important counterparty is the banks. The banks are the ones that often give you trouble. The banks are the ones that block your transactions. So if I'm reporting to the same supervisory body that regulates the banks, then they can't look down on my license. That's like maybe saying look down at your license is a very informal way of saying it, but really that's what happens. They look at your license, whether it's ESCA, VARA, ADGM, the bank will say, hey, that's not my regulator. But under the Central Bank of Bahrain, the banks and the crypto exchanges are both under the same umbrella. So I believe that brings a lot of efficiency and something that the US struggled a lot with, because you have the SEC, you have the CFTC, you have all these different regulatory bodies and you have no idea where to go. Whereas in Bahrain, if you're doing sukuk, if you're doing stocks, if you're doing crypto, if you're doing whatever, you go to the same regulatory body, which is in charge of everything money. And I think that that allows them to move quite quickly. But I also think that what Vara did with creating a regulator only for crypto will, or for virtual assets, let me be correct there, will pay off in the long term.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have Bahrain, we have United Arab Emirates. Is that the countries that are doing this right? Or someone, Adrian, someone from Europe, maybe Portugal? It's very good. Which one would you choose? So 3 countries that are doing this close to right, I'd call it this way, to sum up.
Well, I'm affiliated with the UAE, obviously, so probably that's going to be
Okay.
UAE.
Okay, so looks like the Middle East is paving the way. Okay, now we have 3 minutes left. And my favorite question, why do you think, guys, the SEC hate crypto? So here's the thing, I'm going to explain, right? We had Gary Gensler, who's the commissioner of the SEC. He used to be very pro-crypto when he was a professor. He would write very promising things about these digital assets. But now as a commissioner, he calls it a highly speculative security. And try to kind of think outside the box, I guess. Why do you think the SEC is taking such a strict approach to everything related to crypto, even the Bitcoin ETF approval?
There's sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Hierarchy.
There's one big problem about the US, how things work in the US. Everything is influenced by lobbies. Okay. So you'll have the lobbies, if the lobbies are pushing the government, are funding the parties. That is, in Europe, in my opinion, this would be unacceptable. But in the US, it's normal. There are rules of how to do it, and it's normal. Mm-hmm. And I believe that the strong lobbies will always favor regulation in their favor. And I think that is the main issue they have in the US. Then obviously something else that I hate about the SEC, and again that I don't think it will happen in Europe or in this region, is that they pick examples and make a show out of them. So they make an example out of one operator. I think that's very unfair. I believe that if you give this punishment for this offense to this operator, it should be the same for everyone.
Are you talking about Binance or FTX in this case?
I'm talking in general, because obviously I'm not saying Binance is perfect, far from it. I'm not saying that what Sam Bankman-Fried did is excusable or justifiable or whatever, but I believe that if you're treating these people in this way, you have to treat everyone. If we take Sam Bankman-Fried, he was given a life sentence, right? How many bankers did the same thing that Sam Bankman-Fried did? Why didn't they get a life sentence? And I'll stop there.
Fair enough. Adrian, why do you think the SEC hates crypto assets?
So the truth typically is quite much simpler than what we expect it to be, right? Whenever there is judgment, whenever there is an organization, there is noise in it, and there is more of it than we think, just to paraphrase Daniel Kahneman. And as a matter of fact, this all comes down to communication, to human errors, right? This is where the authorities typically take things lightly. They overjudge, they underjudge, they make human errors and erroneous judgments. As a matter of fact, just create prejudice and then hold on to their prejudice for years. And then on top of that, there you have the external factors, just like the speakers mentioned. The whole point is that if we subscribe ourselves to a policy and we respect it blindly, we're going to be drifted by this policy to make decisions and choices in the light, right? Even though we think differently, we still have to comply with the policy that we kind of like abide. Otherwise, we lose position.
Fair enough. And Talal, time's up. But what do you think about the SEC, or more specifically Binance lawsuit?
So I'll just give you the year at which the securities laws, and I think Joe can correct me here. 1933. None of us were here. So if I'm referring to a document that was written in 1933, there's no point even going further, because like something that's 2005 is outdated. 1933, like there's just no point discussing it. So I think until the US get their head out of their hada, it's going to be very difficult for them to get it right. And if you're using 1933, it's just, there's no way to edit that document. It was written before, like, yeah, none of us were here. So we should not be referring to securities laws. And I guess the US also is the biggest consumer market in the world. So they focus a lot on securities because it is fertile ground for scams. So
easier to
I think
prosecute.
that's the other side of it, I guess.
That's a nice thought. Easier to prosecute, to understand this way. Okay, thank you so much. I'd like to sum up and put a little bit of a personal opinion. So to everyone who listened, thank you so much. And I wish everybody in your businesses, in your personal ventures, a comprehensive legal framework whenever you're based, a speedy path to any license that you want to get, and I guess lobbying if you in the US. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for participating. Hope you enjoy this. Have a great rest of the conference.